I was thinking, and it hurt so bad. But I kept thinking anyway, I kept pushing through it, and I came up with there's something I probably need to do in regards to all this square foot and square inches and cubic feet and cubic inches and things like that I've been covering with surface area and volume. And what I thought of was to put together an example of each of those as an individual unit to give you a better perspective of what it means when we tell you something that is so many feet, so many square feet, or so many square inches, or so many cubic feet, or so many cubic inches. What does it really mean? And I wanted to try to make it as relative as possible. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so here are the models I have set up for you. This is 1 square inch. This is 1 square foot. This is 1 cubic inch, and this is representing 1 cubic foot. This is 1 square inch. So if I use a tape measure, I would just show you that it's 1 inch. Every side is 1 inch. Every side on this is 1 inch. Every side on the cubic foot is 12 inches. And every side on the square foot would be 12 inches. And notice that the square units are flat. The cubic units have a length, a width, and a height. So 3 dimensions, whereas the squares have 2 dimensions, only a length and a width. What I hope to do is to really make this more relevant and increase your understanding of what all this stuff about surface area and volume means. Now I'm going to take this brick, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it down next to the models I have for you, and I'm going to show you why we say and use square and cubic inches for a brick, or something similar to it, something smaller in size. Okay, so here we have the brick. Here I have the example of the 1 square inch. This would be used to measure the surface area, a flat surface. So how many of these 1 inch squares would it take to cover all the surface area of this brick? And then we have this cube. It is a 1 inch cube. How many of these blocks would it take to make up this entire brick? How many 1 inch blocks would it take to make that up? Now, I believe I actually answered that in a previous video, both of these questions. Now, would it make sense if we had, say, 1 square foot? This is 1 square foot. Would it make sense to measure a brick in feet? Well, no, because 1 square foot is much larger than the brick to begin with. So we would end up with a fraction of an answer. So that's why we use units that are more appropriate for whatever it is that we're trying to measure. And in this case, a brick or a block like this it'd be more appropriate to use inches. So here on this patio, this outdoor patio, I have both examples of the square foot and the square inch. Notice how small the square inch is by comparison. It would be a much more appropriate measure to use feet than it would to be inches to measure the entire patio surface. So if we wanted to measure the entire flat area of this patio, the best unit here would be to use feet. Have you ever heard anybody mention about a house having square footage, or how many square feet a house might be? Well, what they're doing is they're measuring all the floor space in the house that's usable. Every bit of area that the floor would take up, all its length and all its width that can be used. Well, what they're giving you is how many of these you could lay down on that floor and fit inside that house, just on the floor. So if you say that you live in a house that, say, has 2,200 square feet, that means you have enough floor on the area that would take up 2,200 of these cardboard squares. Okay, so let's say this is the layout of your bedroom, and you measure it, and you get it's 10 feet across this way, and then it's 12 feet across this way. So it's a 10 foot by 12 foot. Well, that means it's 120 square feet. Well, what else does that mean? It means it would take 120 of these to cover your floor. It also means that if you were to convert that feet to inches, that it would take 17,280 of these 1 square inch tiles to cover your floor if you had a 10-foot by 12-foot bedroom. So now let's say you have a 10 by 12 bedroom. So your floor area measures a 10 by 12, but you also have an 8-foot ceiling, which means from the floor to the ceiling, it's 8 feet. Well, that means you would have 960 of these cubes would fit into your room. You could stack 960 cubes in your room. Now, given it's not going to stack neatly and perfectly in your room, there'll be some boxes that you'll have to cut up and trim a little bit to get in there, but it's the amount of space that's inside your room.